Good morning.
Good morning, Professor.
Today, very few of us are here, just 19 people.
Yeah,
Okay. Just 1 second. Let me adjust my speaker. Has anyone heard of this term oligopoly?
No, Professor.
All right. So, oligopoly is a situation where a few firms control the market, right? So, it is not, see, in monopoly, one firm controls the market. In oligopoly, a few firms, two, three firms dominate the market, right? So can you give me an example of an oligopoly? Any market which has an oligopoly?
Telecom.
Professor, telecom sector now.
Yes, telecom.
Electronics.
There's a very common and famous example in the, you can say, in the beverages industry.
And electronics, sir.
No, first of all, the beverages industry. The cola market, right? Coke and Pepsi.
Yes, Professor.
And electronics, how is it an oligopoly?
Mobile market.
Telecom.
No, but in mobile market, there are a lot of players, right?
Petroleum.
It's not dominated by one or two or three.
Sir, in telecommunication, it's oligopoly. I think only two or three are there: Airtel, Jio, and Vodafone.
Yes. So, I mean, you get an idea. What happens is that in the oligopoly, there are two, three, or four players who control the market. So, just now think it over. In such a situation, what is the risk? What in a situation of an oligopoly, what will the firms try to do?
Restrict barriers to entry.
Why would they restrict barriers to entry?
Um, no other competition to disturb the market, maybe.
No, see, if you restrict barriers to entry, you're saying, right? So what they typically will do is, they will be working together, right? If there are just two players, they will say, okay, let's fix the price at this rate, things like that. Hmm?
Yes, Professor.
So that is the fear when there is an oligopoly, that the firms can act in collusion with each other. So that is something which will be very important part of this chapter, as we'll see later. So, this is how we, if you want to measure the oligopoly, the measure is market concentration. What percent of the market's total output, total capacity is controlled by its four largest firms, right? So, can you give me an example of, let's say, concentration ratio for with respect to, let's say, telecom? No, forget telecom. Telecom is a wrong example. Automobiles.
Maybe Professor lubricants, like we have only Shell or Castrol and few.
Okay, let me put it this way. So, when we talk about oligopoly, we also talk about market control by a few players, right?
Yes, Professor.
So, one way of measuring this market control is something which is called the concentration ratio, which
Okay.
means how much of the total supply in the market in that industry or that market is controlled by the top four firms in that market, right? So, for example, in the beverages industry, let's say overall beverages industry, there may be all this Fruity, Appy, and all those fellows, and Pepsi, and so what this concentration ratio means is what is the total market size of beverages, and out of this total market size, how much is the share of, let's say, Coke, the top four players, including Pepsi, Coke, and Parley and others. So that gives you an idea of the concentration. So in a, let's say, in a particular industry which is controlled by 3 or 4 players, that concentration ratio will be very high. I mean, those 3 or 4 players may be controlling 70, 80, 90% of the market, right?
Yes, Professor.
So the higher the concentration ratio, the lesser the competition. So in this chapter, we focus on oligopoly, where we have high concentration rate. That means the top 3 or 4 players, they control the market. And this is, you can say, the example of concentration ratio in these, let's say, 10 or 12 categories of products. This is for US. So, for example, video game console. So, video game console, I believe there is Xbox and Sony PlayStation and all that, PS4. So, the top 3 or 4 players control the entire market. So also for tennis ball or credit cards, American Express, Visa, Mastercard, and so these are the let's say the businesses where the concentration ratio is very high. So any questions on this?
No, Professor.
Today is the last class. I would like a lot of people participating in the discussion, asking questions, right? So see, we talk about telecom, right? So telecom is a high concentration ratio by definition. So you can see that in the US it is 82%. In India it must be a similar amount. Beer also. So in India, let's say Kingfisher and 3, 4 other brands, they probably control 85% also. Cigarettes also, ITC and one more. In India, this must be 89% or even more. So the trend is similar across most countries.
Professor, this looks like all high investment industries, initial high investment industries are having this trend, oligopoly market kind of trend, where they need heavy investment
See,
to.
it is not only heavy investment. Now, for example, let's say greeting cards. Now, probably you will
Okay.
not say that greeting card is a very heavy investment business or something, right?
Correct, Professor. Yes.
So it's not just heavy investment. It is, some kind of branding. It is some kind of, let's say now, cigarettes also, addiction plus branding and all those. So for each different category, you'll find different situations.
Okay.
Let's say for web search engines, obviously we know that Google is the biggest one. People
Correct.
don't even remember the name of number 2 player.
Yes.
So who is number 2? Any idea?
Yahoo search, or
Bing.
Yeah, Yahoo search or Bing. Well, actually, the answer is different. You know which is the second largest search engine after Google?
Firefox. Yahoo's actually Google has the monopoly right now.
No, it has the monopoly, yes. But after Google, which is the number 2 search engine on the internet?
Bing, it is Bing.
Firefox.
Firefox is not a search engine.
MSN maybe, sir. I think MSN
Okay,
search.
I'll tell you. The answer is YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine.
But that is also by Google only, no, sir?
Yes. Google acquired it. It was not originally by Google. It was founded by one Bangladeshi fellow with German citizenship and 2-3 other people, and they were acquired by Google. So this is the situation in these particular industries. So to answer the question about high investments, that is not always the case. Let's say tennis balls or credit cards or batteries and all that. So anyway, these are the businesses where 3 or 4 companies totally dominate the market. In video game and tennis ball, it is 100%.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
When you say oligopoly, is that something there would be maximum 3 to 4 players in the market?
No,
Or
it is not maximum 3-4 players, 3-4 dominant players.
okay.
There may be others also who are very small players.
Okay. So it depends on the concentration ratio where 3 to 4 players dominate the market. There could be more than 10 also.
Yes, they can be 100 also. But it is like 3-4 at the national level and 1 or 2 at the city level or something.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sir, another question. The concentration ratio here is the market share, correct?
Actually, in the definition, what they say is the quantity produced. So you can say yes, market share only.
And to what percentage of the market share can be taken as, coverage, like taken as oligopoly, sir?
Well, I think there is no exact value, but I would suppose somewhere near 80% and above.
Okay, thank you.
See, because on this chart also, you'll see that the lowest item, autos, which means cars, is 79%.
Yeah.
Right. So this is for the American market. So presumably this means, Toyota, Honda, and Ford and General Motors or something. 4 companies control some 80% of the market. Right?
Yes, sir.
So to define, oligopoly is a market structure in which only a few sellers offer similar or identical products. And strategic behavior, any firm's decision about price or quantity can affect other firms and cause them to react. Okay, So the firms will consider these reactions when making these decisions. And then this is game theory, that means the study of how people behave in strategic situations. So this is a very interesting chapter. Have you normally heard the statement like he has gamed the situation, or he has gamed the market? Have you heard of this phrase, gamed the market?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, Professor.
So basically, game the market is what is what this refers to. That when you take a decision, what will happen? So currently, with this border situation in India, you may have heard of that the Indian Army has war gamed that scenario. Have you read this part? War game the scenario.
Not this, Professor. In the business phrases, we have heard that game.
Yeah. So, for example, let's say in the army also, they say we have war game this scenario. They say that, okay, if we attack here, then the enemy will do this, and then we will do this. So basically, you try to see probabilities and try to, make war games where you actually sort of try to predict what the enemy will do and what will be your counter reaction. So basically, in a market, so even in a, let's say, a war situation, it is your army versus the enemy's army. So they're just two players. Similarly, let's say in business or in any such situation, wherever you try to let's say make an estimation of the behavior of the other parties in the market, that is called gaming. And the various theories that go to explain the behavior is called game theory. Any questions on this slide?
No, Professor.
No, Professor.
So you agree that in this scenario, the out of this oligopoly firms, any single firm's decision regarding price and quantity will impact the other firms also. Do you agree?
Yes, Professor.
All right.
Professor, I have a question.
Yes, yes.
So, as silly as it may sound, see,
No, nothing is silly. Go ahead.
so you have dominant players in the market, but then you also have players who you like. For example, let us take the video game industry. You have Sony and you have Xbox, which are the dominant players in the market. Then you have Nintendo, and then you have a few other firms from China who have probably a small size of the population. So even if Xbox and Xbox and let's say, for example, the dominant players, they change their price. How is that going to anyway affect the less dominant players?
No, see, this discussion is about the dominant players only, right? This chapter is only about the dominant players. As far as this chapter is concerned, the small players are irrelevant.
Okay, I got it. So let us take. Okay, let us take. Okay, I think I phrased the question incorrectly. Let us take, for example, Apple, which is a dominant player right now in the phone industry, because there is also, let us take another phone called Vivo, which is also quite famous. Now, Apple always has a strategy of pricing its phones at more than $1,000. Now, let us say, for example, they price it at $1,500, and Vivo and Vivo is also a dominant player. Vivo can price it to $1,500, but again, like for somebody like me who's actually used to the Apple product, uh, wouldn't I just go for the Apple? It really wouldn't affect the other dominant.
See, what is this? Just read the first line. A market structure in which only a few sellers offer similar or identical products, right?
Correct.
So Vivo and Apple are not similar in the sense that there's a huge brand difference.
They are pretty popular, Professor.
No, popular is right, but Vivo and Apple are not fighting for the same customers, right? This Apple is for Apple. Like, see, in all these markets, with the branding, they see here we're talking about similar or identical products, but in this, basically, the thing is that the Apple's brand value is such that they can do pretty much what they feel like. They don't get affected by other players. See, today the market capitalization of Apple is $2 trillion. $2 trillion is almost, almost equal to the GDP of India. So the value, I mean, the brand value of Apple is too much. I mean, you probably can't compare any other company with Apple.
Got it, Professor.
So what the pricing they do, and they because of their brand value, they have got this. They can charge a premium price, and no, the competitors cannot take advantage of it.
Okay, got it.
It's just like, you have a Mercedes car and you have a Maruti Alto. Now, Mercedes doesn't care about the pricing of Maruti Alto. They're not catering to the same market.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, so let us talk about Mercedes and Audi. Audi also caters to the same class.
Correct.
So increasing the price of Mercedes, how will that affect? Because let us say, for example, I'm somebody who loves Mercedes, and I'll keep buying the Mercedes car, a new car. How will the strategy of Audi changing the price of Audi or changing the price of Mercedes will make me switch to Audi? Not right.
No, see, again, now if you're talking about, let's say, Mercedes, so let us say, Mercedes C class, E class, S class. Let's say Mercedes E class, right?
Right.
So the comparison between Mercedes E class is probably with BMW 5 Series or with Audi A5 or A6 or something, right?
Correct.
So in that category, if the price differential is very much, it will definitely impact buyer behavior. Somebody I'm not talking about people for whom money is not at all a consideration. I'm saying somebody who's, let's say, buying luxury car for the first time. If he sees that, okay, in this category of A4 and 5 Series and Mercedes E category, if two of them are at 40 lakhs and one of them is at 60 lakhs, then the fellow who prices at 60 lakhs is likely to lose market share to the other two.
So, okay, Professor, now I'll come from a question point of view. Let us say that I have an examination question. Should I be considering the class for whom there is no, for whom money really doesn't matter, or should I be considering somebody who's in the upper middle class who's trying to buy what do you call it, a good executive car?
See, first of all, I mean, I really don't know who exactly are the target customers, but you can imagine that somebody who can spend 40, 50, 60 lakh rupees for a car is of a particular socio-economic strata. I mean, you'll be surprised that most of the cars that sell at this prices also are purchased on EMI basis.
Exactly. So that's the next point I would like to say, because EMIs are they make the EMIs so attractive. So most of these high valued cars are within the reach of the upper middle class.
Yes. So what is the question?
So the question is, if the EMIs are so attractive for the upper middle class, what is stopping the person from not switching the brand, even though the price is going to a higher level? Like if the price goes to from $10 million,
See, there is a question that EMI is attractive. Attractive is something what it looks like, but ultimately it has a cost.
correct.
Regardless of how attractive it looks, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 3 months moratorium, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is it has a cost, 9%, 10%, or whatever percent. And whether you buy cash down or you buy EMI, the fact is the cost is the cost, right? Because let us say somebody buys a car worth 10 lakhs. Now, whether you buy through EMI, 7-year EMI, 10-year EMI, 20-year EMI, or you buy cash down, that's a different matter. Cost is cost. 10 lakhs is 10 lakhs.
Okay, sir.
So, how you finance your purchase is a different decision. What you buy and at what price you buy is one thing. How you finance that is a different thing. So those are two different items. Those are two different questions. But the point here is that firms which are selling now, let us say luxury cars, for example, they're not selling identical products, they're selling similar products. So in fact, there is a 1:1 equivalence between these their 5 series and 3 series and 7 series and Mercedes C series and E and S series. So there is almost a 1:1 equivalence in their different models. So the same thing about pricing impacts there. See, so I mean, basically, if you are considered to be a similar product with a similar kind of social value, that this is a great brand, BMW or Mercedes. Within that, of course, people can have their own personal preference that I like only Mercedes. But the thing is that if you look at the prices of competing models, you'll find that they are pretty much in the range of each other.
Okay. So basically, this particular oligopoly is basically a strategy for identical products, which means to say, well, let us take BMW. The variants within the BMW is identical. Is that what you call identical product?
No. Variant is not identical. What I'm saying is, let us say, if we take the example of BMW, Mercedes, and let's say Audi, then what they mean by similar / identical is that a BMW 5 Series is similar to a Mercedes, whatever E range, and is equivalent to, let's say, an Audi A6.
Got it, sir. I think I got the distinction now. Thank you
All
so much.
right. So, because these are the three which are competing in that market.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for the explanation.
So now we take the example of a cell phone duopoly. Let us say you are staying in a small town, Ramnagara or some other place near Bangalore, and there are just two telephone operators. It could be Vodafone Idea, Airtel, Jio, whichever. So that is the example. That this town has 140 residents, and the good, that means the product that is there that we're talking about is cell phone service with unlimited anytime minutes and free phone. And this is the demand schedule for that small town or village. And the two firms are AT&T and Verizon. And this is a case of a duopoly. An oligopoly with two firms is called duopoly, right? And each firm's fixed costs are 0 and marginal costs are 10. So who can explain this slide to me? These assumptions, these 5 assumptions, I want someone to explain to me.
So I think I'll try.
Okay.
So there's a small hamlet of 140 residents, and there are two service providers, AT&T and Verizon, and these 140 residents will have the option to go either to AT&T or Verizon, and and duopoly is something that is as the name suggests, it is for two, and uh, each firm's marginal cost is $10, and so basically there is heavy competition between the two.
What makes you think there is heavy competition?
Because in that particular town or hamlet, you have 140 residents, and there could be 50-50 of AT&T and Verizon.
So I mean, given from this
Price
information,
elasticity, Professor. I
see,
think.
from this information, you don't have any idea about the competition or any such thing. So anyway, now how do you explain the last line? What could be a situation where the fixed cost is 0 and marginal cost is 10? What could be the situation when this happens?
The township has the residents of the town do not have any other option. They either should go to AT&T or Verizon.
No. I'm saying each firm's costs, that they have 0 fixed costs and this much of marginal costs.
Correct.
So how could this happen?
Because there is because these two firms, they don't have to do any advertisement or anything to showcase their product. So their cost is 0, fixed cost is 0.
All right, I got it. Agreed. So it is something like that, that they have got some agents who's, so basically it could be like some small bakery shop or something which sells SIM cards of one or the other operator, right?
Because they don't have to exclusively go and market the product, so they don't have a fixed cost.
Agreed.
So
And here we see what the demand schedule is. If it is given free, all 140 will take the connection, and so on. So from $0 to $45, you have the different demand, quantum at each price level. So this is the demand schedule. So far, so good.
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is the last class, so I expect some ladies also to be participating in the class.
Professor, I have a question regarding this fixed cost. How that can be zero? What Subhash explained, I could not get it.
See, fixed cost is, I mean, it. First of all, how it can be zero is, let us say you have, let's say there's a small village outside Bangalore, and it has coverage of maybe 2 telecom companies. So that company does not have any shop in that area. I mean, sorry, it does not have any company-owned outlet. In Bangalore also, you can find that any small photocopy shop, Xerox shop, they sometimes sell SIMs of different companies, right? Have you seen that situation where these small shops sell SIM cards of telecom companies?
Yes, Professor.
So basically, this is a scenario like that only, where the companies do not have any direct presence in that village. They just have distributed SIM cards to their agents or some shopkeepers, and they sell and they don't do any advertising because they know that they are just 140 people here and they will take either A or B. So, there is no advertising cost. So, and in any case, this is an assumption because, I mean, this is just an assumption that there may be some cost. And this marginal cost may be, for example, the cost of activation of an account or something like that. Or maybe the commission that they are paying to, for each SIM sold, they may be paying $10 or something. So
Okay.
that is the marginal cost.
And for advertising and publicity also that comes into.
Yeah, I mean, no, advertising and publicity in this case likely is zero, because if fixed cost is zero, then probably the marginal cost, I mean, the advertising cost is also zero. Right? In a place with 140 residents, what advertising will you do?
At least one banner should be there, sir.
Or so anyway, I mean, some banner, and how much do you think there you can put it up in an open field? So anyway, don't take this very seriously. This is just an assumption.
Okay. Got it, Professor. Thank you.
So this is the situation, right? So basically, with this P and Q demand schedule, this is the, let us say, this table has been completed. If 10 is the marginal cost, then the total, see, because fixed cost is zero, the total cost is equal to marginal cost. So 10 into 140. So basically 10 into Q is the cost, right? Revenue is price into quantity, and profit is revenue minus cost. So is this table clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Professor.
Okay, so this is the competitive outcome where price equals marginal cost, right? So in this scenario, in this market with perfect competition, this would have been the scenario. Price would be $10, and this quantity would be 120, and the profit will be zero. This is the case of perfect competition. So is this perfect competition? Is it? Do you think is it likely or not?
Yes, sir. It will be likely even in case of duopoly, because each one is trying to get a profit.
Oh, that is true, but do you think they will do it? I mean, they are sitting there to make zero profits.
Not necessary. They will not sit there to make zero profit.
Right. So that means that they will have some kind of agreement.
Correct.
They will have some kind of agreement which gives them the optimum profits.
Nash equilibrium.
Yeah. So let us see what happens. This is the this is the monopoly outcome. If they collude with each other, they will charge $40, right?
Correct. That's a monopoly.
So in a monopoly, in a duopoly situation, what will happen is that AT&T and Verizon will sit over beer and discuss that we will sell at 40. Okay. Understood?
Sir, can you repeat that?
See, here in this schedule, we see two situations. We know that the two extreme parts of the market is where you have perfect competition or you have monopoly. So in the perfect competition scenario, price equals MC, which is $10. So here the profit is zero, right? So obviously they are not going to go for perfect competition, because that is a scenario where they will make no money. So that is no point for them, right? The other is where they have a discussion that, okay, let us do the pricing at $40. We will, total profit will be 1800 and we will make 900 and 900 of each of profits. Correct?
Correct, sir.
So if they don't have any discussion and they keep fighting with each other and they will do competition with each other, in that case what happens is that neither will make any money. So the likely thing would be that they would try to talk to each other and they'll say, okay, let's keep the price at 40 and we will make our maximum profit of $900 each, right?
Correct, sir.
So here, as we can see, that one possible duopoly outcome is collusion, where collusion means an agreement between firms in a market about quantities to produce or prices to charge. So, for example, as we have seen, AT&T and Verizon could say that, okay, we will be selling 30 SIMs a month each at $40 and we will both make $900. Okay. So when two firms, I mean, when the firms come to an agreement to on the price and quantity they will do, that is called collusion, and that group of firms is called a cartel, right? Is this slide clear?
Yes, sir.
So I'm sure you've heard words like collusion and cartel in normal English in paper and all that.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct, sir.
Yeah. So let us see things like collusion versus self-interest. What do you think is self-interest? Collusion we have seen in the previous slide. What do you think about self-interest?
If if one firm wants a name or something, like for example, Geo, in the case they disrupted it, they have their own interest. That's like build their brand or something.
No. See, we're talking about currently about duopoly. So I mean that is a different scenario. We'll come to it later on. But see, what happens is that in this particular example, AT&T and Verizon agree that we will be selling at uh, you know Q that will be producing unit
40, 20 inch, yeah.
will be producing 30 units and will be will be will be producing what was the forgotten. They said that okay, we will be producing 30 each and selling at 40, right? So basically this they could have agreed on this, right, that you will be producing 30 each and we'll be charging $40, so we will both make a profit of $900, right? But one of them, AT&T, can say that if I they may be we have that agreement, but I can make bumper profit by selling 40 units. That if I sell 40 units, then I will be making extraordinary profit at the cost of Verizon, right? So basically what happens is that they may agree that we will produce 30 each and we will make profit, but one side can get greedy and say, okay, we've discussed this, so what? I have not given anything in writing. I will produce more and I will make more money in the short term. So the question is it in AT&T's interest to renege on the agreement? If both firms renege and produce Q equals 40, determine each firm's profits. So are these four scenarios clear? Any doubt on this?
Clear, Professor.
So what do you think renege means? Any idea what renege means?
Like void, maybe void.
Renege means basically to break the promise, to cheat, or to go back on the agreement, right?
Right, Professor.
Okay, Professor.
So basically, this is the scenario. If both firms stick to agreement, each firm's profit equals $900. Now, if AT&T reneges on the agreement and produces Q equals 40, now what happens is, let us say that they agree that they'll be producing 30 each and they'll be making $900, but AT&T thinks that, okay, I have discussed 30, but if I make 40, then what happens? I will make higher profit, right? So if AT&T, if they make 40, then the market quantity becomes 70, because 40 by AT&T and 30 by Verizon. So the market price becomes 35. So at 40, the AT&T's profit is 40 times 35 minus 10 equals $1,000. So AT&T's profits are higher if it reneges or cheats. Verizon may also think the same way, that I will also produce 40. So if now Verizon also cheats, he will produce 40. So the total quantity in the market will be 40 plus 40, 80. In that case, the individual profit would be 40 times 30 minus 10, $800. So if they had kept to their agreement, they would have both made profits of $900. If both of them cheat, then they will both make lesser profit of $800. Just, this is a very important phenomenon. Just take your time and go through it and ask me any questions if you have. No doubts at all?
Sounds clear now, Professor. But don't know.
Okay, let me ask questions. Okay, let's say Naveen, can you please explain to me, unmute and explain this to me? Naveen, can you explain to me? Okay, this time let some lady explain. Saranya, can you explain? Everybody seems to be on mute.
No, sir, we can hear you.
All right, so I would like someone to explain this slide to me.
I'll try. As per the first statement, that is, if both AT&T, Verizon, they agree to the pact, to the verbal promise that they made to each other, each of those firms will make $900 each.
how will they make $900?
So how, by keeping their respective share of the market in the town.
See, so basically what they'll do is that to make $900, they will each produce 30 units, right?
They'll each produce 30 units to keep this thing. But if AT&T regresses and goes back on the agreement and produces 40, then the market makes 40, then the quantity becomes okay, so I got stuck.
That's why I said
Professor,
that.
shall I explain? Shall I try?
Yes.
Professor, both firms agrees that they would produce 30 quantities. So their profit would be 900. But they disagree, and they think if they produce extra quantity, they would make more money. So when they try producing 10 each, so there would be more demand. So the
No. There's no question of more demand and all that.
no, sorry. They would be like more in the market. So to dilute it, the cost will come down. So their profits will also come down.
See, I would like this answer in terms of economics, right? So basically, the thing is that instead of 30-30, one fellow decides to produce 40. So the market quantity becomes 40 plus 30 equals 70, right?
Okay.
Just one sec. Where is the pointer gone? See, had they produced 30 each, they would have each made a profit of $900. Now, if one of them produces 40, the total quantity in the market is that agreed amount of 30 plus 40, 70. And from the schedule, we can see that when there is 70 units in the market, then the price is $35. So if you if AT&T makes 40 and the other fellow makes 30, then AT&T's profit is $1,000. So the greed of making $100 extra may explain why AT&T may try to produce 40 units or sell 40 SIM cards. But if they do that, then and if Verizon also does the same, just like AT&T decides to produce 40, Verizon also decides to produce 40, then there will be 40 plus 40 total 80 units in the market. The price will fall to $30. And when that $30 happens, then each party will make a profit of 40 times 30 minus cost 10, $800. So now is this clear? This entire thing is clear.
Yes, sir.
So what do you conclude? So, I mean, based on whatever you see on this page, what is the conclusion? If somebody says like in the childhood stories, what is the moral of the story? So here, what is the moral of the story? And this time I would like one of your classmates to answer this question. What is the moral of this story? And I would, these are concepts which are important to understand. So it would be important for everybody. So let's have the explanation. What is the moral of this story?
Both firms have to stick to their agreement.
Yes, that not have to see, which means that the benefit lies in both firms sticking to their agreement, because if they so basically what happens is that this kind of 40 and 30 means that in the short run AT&T may make a profit, right? Before Verizon understands, or in the short run Verizon may make a profit, but in the long run they will both suffer because of this kind of behavior. Okay. Agreed?
Agreed, sir.
So now, collusion versus self-interest. Both, as we have seen, that both firms would be better off if they stick to the cartel agreement. But each firm has an incentive to renege on the agreement. Lesson: it is difficult for oligopoly firms to form cartels and honor their agreements. Any doubts with this?
I repeat.
Any questions?
No, sir.
So now what we will do is, now we will figure out the oligopoly equilibrium. Okay, at this stage, guys, can we take a break? I wanted to have my breakfast.
How many minutes, Professor?
15 minutes.
Okay.
No,
So
Professor.
we'll
Okay,
conclude.
Professor.
Okay,
So
sir.
it is 10:45. We'll be back by 11.
Perfect, Professor.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we look at the oligopoly equilibrium. So basically, if both sides are behaving in self-interest, then what is the final Q and P, right? So is it in so is everyone back now?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. So if AT&T increases output to 50, then market quantity becomes 90, right? So initially it was 40 each. So now if AT&T produces increases output to 50, then market quantity becomes 90 and profit becomes 750. So AT&T's profits are higher at 40 than they are at 50, right? The same is true for Verizon. So basically, is this slide clear? Any doubts on this slide?
No, sir.
Any doubts? Nothing at all?
No, sir.
All right. So then there is the equilibrium in an oligopoly is called the Nash equilibrium. Does this name ring a bell, Nash? Does this name Nash remind you of someone?
A Beautiful Mind movie.
Yes. So Beautiful Mind, I've forgotten the name of the scientist, but he was the one who actually did a lot of research in game theory. So basically, in our duopoly, that example that we have taken, each firm has a Nash, the Nash equilibrium is in which Q equals 40. Okay, because at 30 each, they will they would have made $900, but because of their self-interest, they try to corner the market, so they will go for 40. Then it is in the best interest that each of them will be producing 40 and making the corresponding profits. So that is the Nash equilibrium, right? Let's go back to the table. So remember that in the comparative outcome, the quantity would have been 120, which is 60 each, right? And in the monopoly outcome, the profit would have been 900 each at quantity equals 60, total quantity of 60, which means 30 each. Whereas, as we have found, the Nash equilibrium is at this level. So have you noticed this part, that in a perfect, the two extremes of the market are perfect competition and monopoly. So this is the, this is the perfect competition level, and this is the monopoly level, and this is the Nash equilibrium. So, I mean, is this part clear?
Professor,
That,
how do you get to know that that's the Nash, like that's the correct thing, 1600?
I'll show you that. See, here the question is that each of the, in the, they try to make additional profits by, see, they would have made maximum profits at 30 production. They would have made a total profit of $900. But if one of them produces 40 and the other produces 30, then for that period, they will make a profit of $1,000, as we have seen. See, if one produces 40 and the other produces 30, then the price is $35, and at $35 and cost is 10, 25. So one party could have made $1,000. So there is an incentive to cheat and try to produce 40. If one produces 40, obviously the other guy will also go to 40. But now the question is that, will they make still further profit by going from 40 to 50? Here we find that if they go from 40 to 50, 50 each, that means this level. This is what happens. That if each firm produces 40, then each firm's profit is 800. If AT&T increases output to 50, then market quantity is 50 plus 40, 90, and price falls to 25. In that case, AT&T's profit is 750. So if AT&T or either one increases the quantity from 40 to 50, their profit will actually fall down. Is this part clear?
Yes,
Yes,
Professor.
sir.
So because if they go beyond 40, their profit will fall. That means they will stay at 40, right?
Yes.
So that is why that 40 is the Nash equilibrium, 40 each. So just to recap, had they been in monopoly, had they been in perfect competition, they would have done 60 each, but then they would have made zero profits. For maximum profits, they should have kept the production at 30. They would have made a profit of $900 each. But since there is at the monopoly point, there is an incentive for either party to cheat. So the Nash equilibrium is one where it is less optimum for them than the monopoly. Okay. All right. So this part is clear now.
Yes, Professor. So Nash is something above equilibrium, that's market equilibrium, and then something below than monopoly.
No. See, it is like, let us say you have two colors, black and white. Black and white are two opposite ends of the spectrum. And between black and white, you have gray, correct? So black and white are, they are cases which do not happen in reality. They are, let's say, theoretical constructs. So perfect competition never happens and perfect monopoly also never happens. The reality is somewhere between, uh, you know, monopoly and competition, right? So 30, 60. So this would have been the level of, okay, so who'll tell me this production level or this item in the schedule, this represents which part of the spectrum, black or white? Which one is this? 40, 60. Which part of the spectrum is this?
Not sure, Professor.
See, basically, if they had a discussion to make maximum profits, so basically, if a duopoly were to behave like a monopoly, this is what they would have done, right? At this level, they have $900 each. No response?
Yes, sir.
How do they have $900 each at this level?
So each one will produce 30 quantity. Price would be at 40, 30 into 40, 1200. In that, 10 is the marginal cost. If you reduce 300 from 1200, it is 900.
Correct. So this is, so basically what happens is that a cartel or collusion is when the dominant firms try to behave as if they were a single monopoly, right? If there was, instead of AT&T and Verizon, if there was only one player in the market, this is what they would have done. Is that clear now? If instead of AT&T and Verizon, if there were only AT&T or only Verizon, this is what they would have done. Quantity is 60 and they would have made a profit of $30 per unit into 60, $1,800, right? So
Yeah.
if instead of AT&T and Verizon, there had been only one party, this is what they would have produced. Is this part clear?
Yes, Professor.
So now, when we talk about cartel or collusion, we mean that two or more players try to behave as if they are monopoly. So if they have an agreement and they say, okay, let us maximize our profits, this is what they would have done. But in their own selfish self-interest, they want to beat the other fellow. So they, instead of 30, they will manufacture 40. So when they manufacture 40, the total in the market is 40 plus 30, 70. So initially, one of them will make a higher profit. Then the other fellow will also increase his volume. So the price will come down to 30. And this is the Nash equilibrium, because if you try to sell more than 80, then your profits will reduce. So this is the Nash equilibrium. Is this slide clear now?
Yes, Professor.
Okay, so we have seen that the Nash equilibrium is 40. Given that Verizon produces 40, AT&T's best move is to produce 40. So a comparison of market outcomes, the summary. When firms are in an oligopoly, individually choose production to maximize profit, right? Because everybody is selfish. Each one wants to maximize their own profit. And we have seen that the oligopoly Q is greater than the monopoly Q, but smaller than the competitive Q. Is this point clear?
Yes, Professor.
So as we can see that, in the previous example, the competitive quantity was how much?
120, sir.
Yes, this was 120, and this was?
That is 60.
And this was?
That is 80.
Right. So basically, as far as the policy maker is concerned, as far as GDP is concerned, oligopoly is at least better than monopoly, although it is not as good as the perfectly competitive market. Similarly, we'll find that the price is in the inverse range. The monopoly price is the highest, right? And after monopoly price, you have the oligopoly price, and then you have the lowest is the competitive price. At the competitive price, we find that the price was $10. At monopoly price, it was, I think, it was $40.
$40.
Yeah, so basically it is the inverse relationship. The price is lowest in competition and the quantity is maximum. In monopoly, price is highest, quantity is least. And oligopoly is somewhere in between. That part is clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Professor.
So increasing output. Now we're talking about duopoly or oligopoly. That there are two impacts of output. If you see, so basically, if the price is greater than your marginal cost, you will increase output to create for raise profits. Price effect. If raising output increases market quantity, which reduces price and reduces profit on all units sold. So these are the two things happen when you increase your production. And if the output effect is bigger than the price effect, firm will increase production. If price effect is greater than output effect, it will reduce production. Just read this slide and let me know if this is clear.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Right. So basically, these are the two things happen. Right. If price equals, you can keep on increasing profits, the output. But if the output is such that it reduces the price to such an extent that your overall profits reduce, then you will reduce production. So now the size of the oligopoly is, as the number of firms in the market increases, the price effect becomes smaller. The oligopoly looks more and more like a competitive market, right? So as the number of, initially it is a duopoly with 2 firms, then becomes 3 firms, 4 firms, 5 firms, 6 firms. It starts moving towards the competitive market, right? Because the two ends are monopoly and perfect competition. As the number of firms increases, it moves more and more towards a competitive market. So the price approaches the marginal cost. The market quantity approaches the socially efficient quantity. What do you mean by socially efficient quantity?
What the people want.
It is not what the people want, it's more like what the people need or what the economy needs. So basically, government wants competition where people make, lesser profits, so they have to struggle harder, they produce more. If they produce more, prices fall, and there is better employment and everything is there, right? So basically, as far as the government is concerned or the policymakers are concerned, they want a competitive market. But as far as the firms are concerned, in a competitive market, their profits are reduced. So they want to move away from perfect competition. So it is a struggle. That is why when you have perfect competition, then companies get into branding, advertising, so that they create a small monopoly around their brand. And one side effect is that another benefit of international trade increases the number of firms competing, increasing quantity. So basically, if you open your economy to the world, if you allow imports of products, then your domestic companies will have to compete with international companies. So they need to become more and more efficient, right? So any doubts on this slide? Any doubts on this slide?
For now,
No, sir.
I think so.
I
No,
would like someone to explain this part to me. Benefit of international trade.
Professor, can I try?
Yes.
So it's like there was a, like I will tell it with a thing. There was a even FDA or else Walmart, Flipkart and all are coming in. The locally produced players, they were like bit struggling because like they would be providing better cost at a better cost, and they would be having more capacity to eat off this all. So that would be the thing.
Yes. Now, the thing is that is there anybody among you who was born before 1991?
me, professor.
Yes,
Which year?
Yes, sir.
89.
84.
Okay. So anyway, you were too young at that time. From the time of our independence, 1947 till 1991, India had a controlled market. So basically, imports were severely restricted to protect the domestic firms, right? So you could not have foreign cars. For that, you needed a special permission. You could not have Kellogg's cornflakes and all that. The idea was that in 1947, the country got independent, and the government thought that we must protect Indian businesses so that they can develop and become stronger, right? But
Yes.
but after 1991, we found that our country was going bankrupt. We did not have any foreign currency because we don't produce oil. Our biggest import is oil, or let's say military expenditure. So we needed dollars to finance our imports. And since we did not have any dollars, we had to pledge our gold and get a dollar loan from some foreign banks. When that happened, they said, we will not just give you these loans. You have to do something in return. You have to do some reforms. You have to do some trade reforms. You have to open your market to foreign companies. That is why in 1991, the Indian economy became much more open. That opening started then, and it of course continues till this day. So before 1991, getting anything imported or foreign in India was a big problem.
Is this something that Dr. Manmohan Singh termed it as economic?
Yes. This is what Manmohan Singh had done when Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. And frankly speaking, at that time, we had no money. We were almost bank. When we say we had no money, that means we had no dollars, because the international currency was dollars, and we needed dollars to buy petrol and fuel for our economy, for our cars, for our railways, for everything, aeroplanes. Right. So since our policy was no exports, no imports. That was our thing. Neither use dollars, neither. I mean, so basically, don't even earn dollars by exporting, and don't spend dollars by importing. So that was the kind of policy that we had. The only income that we used to have in dollars was Indians in foreign countries selling dollars behind, or maybe some small our exports like handlooms and textiles and all. That was all we used to export. So the dollar situation was very precarious. Then we had to take that loan, and then of course under pressure we had to also open our market to foreign companies. So basically, when foreign companies enter the market, what happens is that then your domestic firms face competition from international firms. So they also have to become more efficient and have a better quality to survive. Right? Because before 91 and all that, the only telecom company was BSNL or MTNL. Only car you could buy was Ambassador or Fiat. Everything, I mean, nothing had a choice. For telephone, you have to wait for years. For a car, you have to wait for years, and so on. Okay.
Yeah, Professor.
And on a different note, when this 91 happened, most of you were not born, or you were little children or babies. I was 26 years old or 25 years old when that liberalization happened. So previously, when some relative used to travel abroad, we used to tell them, please get us a video cassette, please get us some MTV cassette and all that. And I think the worst part was, of course, we did not have Coke and Pepsi also. In 77, we used to have Coke since independence. But in 1977, the government banned Coke also. So for 14 years, from 1977 to 91, there was no Coke in the Indian market.
Professor, this was called some LPG or something, liberalization, globalization.
Yeah, this was called liberalization.
Yeah.
Okay, can you imagine that if suppose you wanted to, people of course did travel abroad for work and other things. Can you just imagine what was the quota for travel, foreign travel? How many dollars you could take? Any guess?
$100?
Yeah, something like that. $200, $250 per person. Because the country did not have dollars, so to save our dollars, the quotas and limits were such levels at $200. Obviously, people could not survive in $200. So there used to be other crimes, hawala. People used to transfer rupees overseas, and you suppose your flight lands in Singapore on the way to Australia. Somebody will come to in Singapore and give you the dollars in your hand there. So all these things happened because of because of government policies. So after liberalization, you can say the honesty levels have gone up because the requirements have become. Now the economy is more practical than what it used to be in the 70s or 60s.
And so the problem still lies, right? If you can take $3,000 out
I
of the
can't.
country.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the problem still lies. If you take $3,000 out of the country.
No, again, your voice is cracking. I think other people are. So those who are not talking, can you please mute?
Okay, so what I was saying, Professor, is that the problem still remains that the cap has just gone up from $250 to 3,000, and because even the world economy has diversified so much that it's not enough for a foreign trip with $3,000.
I mean, I think it is $3,000 per trip. I don't know what the exact amount is. So typically, what people do is that people, do their airline bookings and hotel bookings if sitting in India, and then they see. So basically, the $3,000 is typically the currency that you can carry. But people anyway have credit cards. Credit cards, you can buy dollars, right? You can pay for your payments in dollars
We can
using
also
credit
carry
cards.
forex cards we can
Yeah,
carry.
so no, that whatever quota, $3,000 or $4,000, whatever the rule is, that includes the sum total of carrying currency or traveler's checks or forex card, right? Whatever balance you have, people typically they use credit card to buy, and whatever they can spend beforehand from India only, they will do booking in hotel and all that. So, I mean, for example, today on let's say foreign education also, there is the limits have been removed. You can, I think, spend something like $200,000 a year or something for dollar expenses. So now people can actually pay by official channels for their children's education abroad. Because today, if a child is if somebody's son or daughter is studying in America, it's pretty common that the tuition fees will be $40,000 a year plus cost of living there. So now, right now, officially, people can transfer $100,000 for their annual expenditure, etc. All these things, because the law did not permit, people had to resort to underhand dealings to do all these things in the past. Basically, hawala, send money through illegal channels, right?
Yes, Professor. Hawala, smuggling, and all were very famous at
Yeah,
that time.
hawala. So typically what happens is that, for example, let us say a fellow goes to America to study in the 1970s, 80s or 60s. So there you go and you find that the tuition fee is $30,000-$40,000. Now you are not allowed to transfer $30,000-$40,000. So what people used to do is have an agreement with some Indian family there. They will say that out of love and affection for Mr. So-and-so, I will sponsor his education here. So he will sponsor his education here and you will pay that amount to that fellow's relative in India. So ultimately what happens is that whatever dollars that person may have sent to Indian channels officially, you are paying here by rupees. So basically the government is losing those dollars, right? So all these things were happening because of these rules. Or hawalas, of course, that you talk to some hawala operators and say that, okay, I will pay you rupees in India, you pay my son dollars in America. So all those things were happening. But now the restriction for expenditure in dollars has been, I think, almost totally removed. Even you can make as many trips abroad in a year and still, I think there is sufficient amount. So because of the much better trade balance and the dollar situation, the government has removed all these restrictions. All right, so now we go to the final topic in this chapter, which is game theory. So game theory helps us understand oligopoly and other situations where players interact and behave strategically. So dominant strategy, so here what we define is dominant strategy is a strategy that is best for a player in a game regardless of the strategies chosen by other players. So for example, in the previous example, the dominant strategy would have been producing 40 units, right? And to explain this scenario, there is a game which is called the prisoner's dilemma. Anybody here of, has anybody heard of the prisoner's dilemma?
Kind of, I remember, I guess, Professor.
What? Take a guess at it.
If actually two people have committed some crime and they are in investigation, and maybe if the police says that I will leave you if you confess about the other person, you will get 2 years imprisonment, or else you will get 7 years. The same is said to the other guy, and if they don't identify both of them, they will get 5 years. So the best is like the prisoners wouldn't be knowing what the other guy would be doing.
Correct. You are absolutely right. And now you understand why our Indian police tortures criminals, why they beat them up, so that one of them at least confesses. Okay, and typically in this scenario, what happens is they are kept in different cells. So criminal A does not. I mean, you cannot say criminal. Say suspect A does not know what B will say, and B does not know what A will say. Right? So this is the scenario. The police have caught Bonnie and Clyde, two suspected bank robbers, but only have evidence to imprison each for 1 year. Okay, so then they know that these two are probably crooks, but they have proof. They may have conducted 100 different crimes, but they have been caught only in the last one. So they have evidence only of the last case, so that they can go to jail for 1 year. Now they put Bonnie and Clyde into different rooms and offer each the following deal: that if you confess, which in our Indian language becomes that if you turn government approver, you will go free. Okay, but if you do not confess, but your partner implicates, if he turns improver, then you get 20 years in prison. And if you both confess, you get 8 years in prison. Is this case understood?
Yes, Professor.
First of all, who will tell me who are Bonnie and Clyde? They were real people actually. So anyway, Bonnie and Clyde were real robbers in America during the, I think, early 20th century or late 19th century. During the cowboy period, these two were criminals. They were a man and a woman. And ultimately, of course, they were shot dead by the law enforcement. You can look up their story on Google, of course. So this is the situation where they are two suspected bank robbers, but the police have evidence only for 1 year jail. So they are, so this is the scenario. So now let us going back to the example of monopoly. what do you think would have been the best case scenario for both of them? Let us say Bonnie and Clyde work for Don Corleone. So what would have been the policy of the criminal company? What would Don like Bonnie and Clyde to do? What would be the instruction from their boss, the gang leader?
No one should confess.
Yes. So from the gang leader, the idea would be that no one would confess. So they basically get 1 year jail each. Okay. Right.
Yes, correct.
But now again, just like that example of AT&T and Verizon, once the police starts questioning and they give you this little inducement that, you know, if you confess and implicate, you will go free, right? So when this happens, what happens? That they will be, they may feel that, oh, it's better that I better open my mouth and go free, right? So this will be the what they try to do. They will try to confess and escape, right? This will be the motivation. I mean, from inside they will say, why get into this trouble? Why stay for a year away from my family? Why don't I just confess and get out of this place free? Right? That would be a temptation. Agreed?
Yes, Professor.
At the same time, they know that if I do not confess, but if the other fellow confesses, then I will get 20 years. So that is a very horrible thought. So what is likely to happen is that both will confess and each will get 8 years of prison. This is the Nash equilibrium. We'll see exact in the next scene. So this is the, you can say, the decision matrix. This is Bonnie and this is Clyde. Here both confess, here confess, remain silent, confess, remain silent. So when Bonnie confesses and Clyde confesses, then in this scenario, both get. So let us say, okay, when Bonnie confesses and Clyde remains, no, what is this? Yeah, if they both confess, it is 8 years. Let's complete this. Okay. So these are the 4 possible scenarios that can happen, right? Bonnie can either confess or remain silent. So there are 2 combinations. Clyde can remain silent or confess. There are 2 combinations. So together there are 2 into 2, 4 combinations. If you remember this from your permutation and combinations in mathematics, right? So you agree that there are 4 scenarios?
Yes, Professor.
Okay, so take a good look at this sign. So confessing is the dominant strategy for both players. Just like in the previous case, that 30 to 40 was a dominant strategy. So here also, both confessing will be the dominant strategy, because each one has got the selfish interest that if I confess and implicate, Clyde thinks that if I implicate Bonnie, I can go free. Bonnie thinks that if I can implicate Clyde, I will go free. So both will confess. And if both confess, then they will get into this 8-year kind of situation. Right? So this is the dominant strategy. So if this is the dominant strategy, by definition, this is the Nash equilibrium, that both will confess.
So basically, Nash equilibrium says that there should be a win-win situation.
Sir, where is the win-win? It is win-win only for the police here, right?
It's the optimum situation which
Situation.
everyone gets.
See, let us say here there are two parties. Like in the previous party of small town, the two parties were AT&T and Verizon, and the people who were the villagers of that place, right? Small town. So the public of 140 people and the two companies, there were two different parties. Here also there are two different parties. Here there are the law enforcement, which means the police, and the criminals, the two criminals, Bonnie and Clyde. Obviously, in this example, they have to be on the same team. They can't be two different criminals. That one is from Dawood Ibrahim and one is Chota Rajan. They both have to be Dawood Ibrahim or Chota Rajan. Correct? So in this scenario, that is why the gang leader will always tell the criminals that, okay, if you go to jail, do not confess. I will we will give money to your family and take care of your wife and children. So that is the best case as far as the criminal is concerned. 1:1, right? So that is what the criminals, the gang leaders policy is this, that you don't talk and you will both serve only 1 year. Because as far as he's concerned, he's losing one employee for 1 year and one employee for 1 year. So basically 2 employee years they're losing. In this scenario, he's losing 16 employee years. And in these scenarios, he's losing 20 employee years. So as far as the gang leader is concerned, this is the best scenario, right? But because of the, let us say, the motivation, each of Bonnie or Clyde as individuals, they would like to turn approver and implicate the partner. So since the same thing happens for both of them, they both end up getting jailed for 8 years. If they had both kept their mouth shut, they would have been only 1 year. But what happens is, because of selfish reasons, they will not keep their mouth shut. They will confess, and both will end up in jail for 8 years. Is this part understood?
Yes, Professor.
Sir, how do we compare these 4 boxes in terms of profit maximization or losses in both the telecom operators? Is it 1 year and 1 year is going to be benefited to them in terms of telecom
No.
operators?
See, 1 year is basically, as we saw in that example, that they produce 30 and 30 quantities, so they make $900 and $900 each, right?
Okay. So that is monopoly dominant then.
Yeah, that is monopoly dominant. And this is the situation where, let us say, one fellow, AT&T thinks, okay, he's making 30 units, why don't I make 40 units? Instead of $900, I will make $1,000 profit, right? So AT&T thinks this way, and Verizon also thinks this way. So they both produce 40 and they end up in this square. So this would have given them maximum benefits. This is their selfish idea, and because of the selfish idea, they'll end up here. Is this clear now?
Yes, sir.
So outcome, Bonnie and Clyde both confess, each get 8 years in prison. Both would have been better off if both remained silent. But even if Bonnie and Clyde had agreed before being caught to remain silent, the logic of self-interest takes over and leads them to confess. It's, of course, in reality, it is not self-interest also, it is also the beatings of the Indian police, right? So that is another influence. So again, just what we discussed, this how oligopoly and prisoner's dilemma are related. This is the case for that AT&T and Verizon example, that if both are producing 30-30, they will both make $900. But each one tries to be extra smart, and if he produces 40, he says, okay, I will get, instead of 900, I will make $1,000 profit. Similarly, this fellow thinks that if I make 40 instead of 900, I will make $1,000 profit at the cost of the competition. And ultimately what happens is that both land up in this scenario, or like in the case of prisoners, both confessing. So is this clear now?
Yes, Professor.
So now, there is another example, just like you have AT&T and Verizon. These two are probably two of the largest airlines in America, Delta Airlines, United Airlines. So the choice is cut fares by 50% or leave fares alone. So this is the scenario that if both airlines cut fares, it is 400 million. If neither cuts, they are 600 million. If one cuts its fare, 800 and 200. So basically what happens is, this is the original scenario, that they are, whatever prices they charge, and they are both making $600 million each. But one fellow thinks that if I cut my prices, then I will make extra profits. So what he tries is, by increasing the price, by cutting the price, he makes 800, and temporarily the other fellow's profits reduce. Then he will also cut down the price, and they will come to this scenario, right? So from 600 million profit, they will go down to 400 million. They will both suffer. So is this example clear? Now this is an example of price cutting, undercutting your competition. Is this part clear? I think the graph will be right. So this is Delta Airline and this is United Airlines. If originally this is the situation where they don't cut, and if they cut, they make additional profit. So because one cuts, the other will also cut, and they will end up in this quadrant. Okay, so this is another example of Nash equilibrium. So anyway, these are other examples. So you have price war. Here you have a question of ad war, or you have these Gulf countries which used to produce petroleum, OPEC. So that is Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. So they also at one time in the 1970s, they had this that we will all produce only this much of oil and we will have a maximum price in the market. But again, because of selfishness, that cartel broke up. So again, the same thing is like arms race between military superpowers, India, China, India, Pakistan, and all that. So ideally, every country will be better off if they don't spend money on army, and they spend money on their health and education and other things. So that would be the better thing. But every country wants to be stronger than the neighbor, so they arm, and that is what both people follow. So ultimately, what happens is that both of them go for strengthening their military strength, right? Similarly, it would be better if everybody tried to conserve common resources like water, fuel, but ultimately everybody ends up overusing the resources. So all of these are examples which can be explained through the Nash theory. So so basically what this prisoner's dilemma, because people do not cooperate, the non-cooperative oligopoly equilibrium is not good for the society's welfare. It is bad for oligopoly firms, prevents them from achieving monopoly profits. Good for society because the quantity is closer to the socially efficient output, price is closer to marginal cost. In other prisoners' dilemmas, the inability to cooperate may reduce social welfare, because if they start arming, there'll be an arms race and overuse of common resources, all this oxygen and all that, right? Other example is, let us say, negative campaign ads. Now this is, let's say, two people fighting in election to become some, let us say, are you saying something? So this is another example of, this campaigning. Let us say that the two people, or let's say in the case of India, let us say BJP and Congress. So if what happens is that because of the negative campaign, you have the other side will lose, let's say 3,000. If R runs a negative campaign attacking D, 3,000 fewer people will vote for D. Out of 3,000, 1,000 will vote for R, and 2,000 may go for none of the above, nota. So similarly, if D runs a negative account, say campaign attacking R, similarly, we may have 2,000 abstaining. So if R and D agree to refrain from running attack ads, all 3,000, there will be no people abstaining. They may all vote. So what happens is that, now this is an example. So I mean, basically, these you can go through this example yourself. They're all different scenarios where the theory of prisoner's dilemma can be applied. So what happens is, why people sometimes cooperate when the game is repeated many times. After many rounds of, let us say, that same kind of scenario of AT&T and Verizon, they do it in small town A, then small town B, small town C. Then they realize that because of this unnecessary, unhealthy competition, they're both losing. So when they go to a new scenario, a new city or a new country, they may collaborate. So that is called, they may sometimes cooperate if they have both burnt their fingers by tit for tat situation, right? So what do policy makers do towards oligopolies? Governments can sometimes improve market outcomes. In oligopolies, production is too low and prices are too high relative to social optimum. So role for policy makers is to promote competition, prevent cooperation, to move the oligopoly outcome closer to efficient outcome. Is this part clear? Is this slide clear? Who can explain this slide to me? Who can explain the slide?
Professor, can I try?
Yes, yes.
Professor, for example, recently Burger King IPO is coming, but today the government has banned many products, which is they say that it's not safe for India, like not safe for kids. That's like burgers and many things, cokes and stuff. So those, like, government is trying to improve the market, so they are doing it. Another case would be of the classic
No,
case of Jio.
I did not get the case. What is happening in Burger King IPO?
The thing is that IPO is nearing, but government has yesterday or today they had issued a circular where they are banning burgers for kids, children, and all. And another case would be
you're talking about Indian market or foreign market?
Indian market.
Oh, I did not see this.
Okay. And another thing will be Geo, Professor, where it's like Airtel and Vodafone and all, they were like said not to reduce their price, and Geo was given all the facilities and all the extended period because they wanted Geo to come up.
No, okay. I will not answer anything. Anybody else? Anybody else would like to try?
Professor, actually in oligopoly market, compared to the resources utilized by the companies which compete, the production is not optimum, and the prices will be high. There is a chances of collusion between the companies, and they can take advantage of their dominance in the market to charge more price to the consumers. So government will always try to suppress these collusive market conditions.
Okay. Anybody
Yeah,
else?
yeah, sir. Sir, this telecom, if you see for the last 1 year, Vodafone wanted to shut their operations down because of AGR 53,000 crore. What government has done it in case if Vodafone closes down, there would be only two operators. They will decide the price on their own. Hence, what government has done it, government has done in such a way that AGR amount, which is about 2 lakh crore for all the operators, they made it in such a way that they can clear in next 10 years. Hence, Vodafone will survive in the industry so that there would be a competition.
Okay. There are many things here. What does AGR stand for?
This is aggregate gross revenue, sir, which was actually audited
I think it
last
was
week from
something
the
for
Supreme Court.
spectrum, right? Something for spectrum. Not sure.
This is for, yeah, no, this is not for spectrum. This is for the total revenue what telecom earns. Example, Airtel earns revenue from the products like mobility or data connections, and also they earn from the tower management. What government wanted is they wanted money from both the business verticals. What Airtel was saying is they will only pay you AGR on the mobility and data. This was the issue going on for the last 14-15 years.
Okay. So, all right. Anyway, so here one thing I would like to say is that who had taken the first attempt at answering?
I think it was Rahul.
Rahul?
Bharat, sorry, Bharat.
All right, Bharat. So what had you said? Just can you please repeat?
Professor, which part, Professor?
No, regarding this slide, what had been your explanation?
I said where government is a catalyst.
No. What you please repeat what exactly you had said 5 minutes back?
Professor, I had said about two things. It's like Burger King IPO, and another thing was Geo.
All right. So now in this case of Burger King and IPO and all that, that has got nothing to do with this topic, right? Because public policy for oligopolies, that burger is not to be encouraged for younger people, and it is a junk food. Does not have anything to do with the oligopoly. That is to do something with public health or something like that. Similarly, if the government supports one particular company out of 2 or 3 companies, that is an example of crony capitalism. It has got nothing to do with this principle of oligopoly or with this topic. Okay.
Okay, Professor.
All right. So in a sense, what happens is that, as we have seen, that the policy makers will try. See, there are two players. One is the policy maker, which is usually the government or the regulatory body. Then there is the firms, which is the telecom operator or whichever airline or something. And the third player is the public. So public will consume the products of these companies, and they will also get jobs, etc., from these very same companies. The motivation of the government is to have maximum production, highest competition, so that there is large number of production, maximum jobs, lowest prices. Whereas the firms, they would prefer some kind of monopoly where they control the prices and maximize the profits. So the government tries to enter here and ensure that the companies move towards competition. So this is the scenario that you have on the two opposite spectrums. You have the government and you have the firms. Government wants higher production or higher competition. That means lower profits. The firms want higher profits, right? And when you said that government has increased that 10-year period, that is very correct, because if the 10-year period had not been increased, then Vodafone would clearly have left the market. So they would have
Yes, sir,
been
they
probably
were
only
almost ready.
Jio and BSNL left. You're saying something?
Yeah, they also gave statement that if government does not support, they will close this. They
Yes,
made this statement
I
also. Yeah.
think even Idea had said the same thing, that they'll also close.
Yes, correct.
So basically, if you remember, telecom is a classical case in India. When telecom was privatized, there were, I think, 7 or 8 operators per circle. And now the situation has happened that all India, there are now just basically you are all this Tata, all these Rcom and all are all gone. You either have Vodafone Idea, or you have Airtel, or you have Jio. Just 3 players are left in the market. And out of these 3 players, Vodafone Idea are in dire straits, really financially huge problems. Okay, so that is the scenario. But again, this is part of business cycle. Suppose one day Vodafone or Airtel, Vodafone goes out of the market, then again the profits of Airtel and Jio will increase, because they will start behaving. They'll say, okay, let us enjoy this market. Once the profits increase, again new people will enter the market. So these kind of things will continue to happen. Right. So next is, now this is of course American example, that how does government prevent collusion and formation of oligopolies. There are certain laws in America called Sherman antitrust and Clayton antitrust. We may have similar laws in India, which I can't offhand remember. So most people agree that price fixing among competitors should be illegal. Okay, whereas there are people who feel that these laws like antitrust, they are too they are too draconian. They go and they stifle business. But the fact is that because of selfish interest, that collusion does not last too long. Just like the prisoners Bonnie and Clyde, they all are selfish, so everybody wants to make additional money. So usually this collusion does not last for too long. So you have, let us say, different examples: resale price maintenance, right? So you have something called fair trade. So you have a situation where manufacturer retails price on some products. So a retailer, a company, Apple can say that you cannot sell an iPhone for less than 45, iPhone 8 or 9 or 10 for less than 50. So that situation can happen where the minimum price is fixed by the manufacturer. It is often opposed because it appears to reduce competition at the retail level. So at the retail level, if they stick a base price, then the opportunity of adjusting the price between competing shops becomes less. Yet any market power to the manufacturer is at the wholesale level. Manufacturers do not gain from restricting competition at the retail level. So basically, typically you have manufacturer, they sell to wholesalers, wholesalers sell to retailers. So typically manufacturers do not have any interest in controlling the sale level at the shop level, right? So okay, so now who can let us say about the first three parts? Why don't manufacturers restrict the retail price? Of course, retail price here is for non-company stores. Who can explain this? Any idea? Can you give me an example? Because this is something which is we see around us every day. Can anybody explain this slide to me?
Professor, normally retailers tend to promote the manufacturer's product. The more profit manufacturer gives to the retailers, the more he promotes the manufacturer's product. So manufacturer always tries to compete in the retailer's profit.
No, I think we are again going away from the topic. The topic here is that you have some product which is sold in retail stores. The retail stores do not belong to the manufacturer. So when we are talking about a retail store, we are not talking about the Samsung store, about the Apple store, or we're talking about Sangeeta or anybody else who keep products from all manufacturers. So now what happens is about the price, that if there is a rule that you cannot keep the price beyond a certain limit, below a certain limit, this is something that the government does, right? Because see, what happens is that the manufacturer, they sell their products to the wholesalers. So they don't really care what price, they cannot really say what price the retailer should charge, right? But what happens is now, if there is no limitation to cutting the price, what happens is that people go to the store, they look at the product and they come home and they buy from Amazon. Haven't you seen this situation happening? Haven't you done it yourself?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, sir.
So this is the situation. What happens is that everybody, that is why now the government is very concerned. They have reduced the amount of discounts you can give on Amazon and Flipkart. Because what happens is that people will go to Brigade Road, where people have to pay rent and they have to pay for employees, and they will look at the product there and then they will go home and they will buy from Amazon. So in this kind of scenario, often what the government does is they fix a minimum price below which you cannot sell. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah. So there is something called predatory price, where one firm cuts prices to prevent entry, or see, this is, let's say, the example of what Geo did, right? You cut the price to such a level that your competitor becomes bankrupt, and then you increase the price and get the entire market. Okay. Is this part clear? This chapter, this part of predatory pricing? Is this part clear? This slide?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, sir.
So now what happens is that predatory pricing may be done, but it is, there are a lot of ways to get out of this, that I'm charging free for the minutes, but actually I'm making my profit in the phone and all that things. So it is difficult to prove in the courts that you are doing predatory and you are harming the competition. So this is, again, people debate whether predatory pricing is a good strategy or not. It involves selling at a loss, so it can backfire, or these various situations are there. This is called bundling. Like previously, there was a big problem. In the early days of the internet, there were companies like Netscape, Navigator, and other people who were selling a web browser. And then Microsoft started bundling Internet Explorer with Microsoft Windows. So all these things basically are questions of how people try and use monopoly or do some tough practices to kick competitors out of the market. So now the conclusion is that oligopolies can end up looking like monopolies or like competitive market, depending on number of firms and how cooperative they are. The prisoner's dilemma shows how difficult it is for firms to maintain cooperation, and policymakers use antitrust laws to regulate oligopolist behavior. So it tries to use these laws to prevent cooperation amongst oligopolist firms. So finally, this chapter is over, and the entire syllabus is over. So any questions? This was our last class, so we have finished all the chapters for this course. Now it is Q&A time. Any questions? Any questions here?
Hi, Professor Abhinav here. So actually, I want to know about the examination patterns. If you could tell a bit about that for economics.
This examination pattern, from what I remember, is that let's say there'll be typically three sections: section A, B, and C. In section A will be typically short theory questions. Section B would be short problems, and section C would be some kind of case study.
So like in case study, it will be an actual case, and it would be like we have to present a news kind of thing.
Yeah, case study does not mean that it is something which has actually happened in real life. It will basically be a scenario that this is such and such. There are two companies, and this is what they do. This is their profit. This is their margins. What do you think will happen? A, please mention this. Please calculate this. It would be a lot like, let us say, your first assignment. right? So you have a problem, and there will be question A, B, C, and in section B there will be two problems like that. For example, that tomato ketchup or somebody's lawn mowing, Bob's lawn mower, or there was about that cassette, some music player. So that music player type of problem, they'll be the section B type of problems. They initially the questions that were there about short answers. I mean, I don't remember the questions were in the first section. Yes, about your standard of living vis-a-vis your grandparents and parents. So that kind of thing will be section A. Section B will be that lawnmower or the tomato ketchup kind of thing. And section C will be typically where you have to complete a table, maybe plot a graph, and give answers based on all these things.
Sir, we don't have objective questions this time.
No, objective questions will be there, right? So I mean, see, right now I'm not exactly sure, because I believe that there was some discussion that the examination will be online, right?
Yes, Professor.
So
And MCQ this time we don't have. That's what.
you don't have MCQ.
No.
Oh, that means you'll have to type in your answers online.
Yes, Professor. One is 5 marks question, the first category. Second is 10 marks questions. That's 4 questions. And then third is case study.
All right. So in that case, this is typically like, like your assignment, like the first assignment ABC. First, you will have a short theory question worth 5 marks. There may, I don't know what the choice scenario is. There'll be, there may be some, I think there is no choice in section A. There is some choice in section B. And then I think there is no choice in section C. No, there is choice in A and B. Yes. So in let us say in B, it could be 2 out of 3, and A, it could be 4 out of 5. I don't know what the current, the format is, but there will be some choice. But I would suggest that you do not leave any chapter. This is not your class 10 exam where you say, no, we will not do this chapter. There will be enough choice. Because if you miss a chapter or miss some whatever, you are likely to lose some marks for not attempting only. And I would also urge you that, see, that in online papers, I know that people can be on a conference call and discuss and all that, but I would strongly suggest that if you want to learn from this subject, it is better to attempt this paper on your own for maximum benefit. Prepare, because this chapter, this study of economics is very interesting, and it is the foundation of business. So this is a chapter in which it would help if you put effort and understand and this will form the foundation of your further subjects in your MBA as well as your future career. Right? So I would suggest that do not leave any chapters, complete the entire syllabus and try practicing to solve problems. If you have ManCube or something, then you have probably solved examples given in that in the chapters.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Sir, is PPTs enough, or we need to practice from the book as well?
I see PPT anyway, whatever. So PPT is there, but see, so sometimes what happens is when we just do from PPT, certain aspects may be already in your mind after you've discussed in class. So when you try to solve, some answer may just come to you based on what you've already discussed. So it is better to try something new and see if you can apply the theory and the logic there also. So my suggestion is to try at least one new problem for each topic. So anyway, when you are studying, then of course you can ask your fellow students that how to solve this problem. Is this how they have also solved it? What are the answers they've got? You can, all this discussion I would hope is prior to the exam, not during the exam. And the other thing is that I personally prefer answers that are short and accurate. I do not give extra marks for long, massive answers, which, in other words, therefore, thus it may be said, or in conclusion, say the same thing again and again and again and again. That does not cut ice. So I would be happy to give full marks for accurate questions, accurate answers, which cover the points. So your focus should be on efficiency and accuracy. It does not matter that you finish the paper in half the time or something. It really doesn't matter. Just to fill the time, you don't have to fill the pages. In the assignments also, I see that there are certain example answers which are same across 65 submissions. Or, half the people have given one answer, the other half have given some answer. So I suppose there has been certain amount of discussion in the assignments. Right? It's not natural, right, that word for word the answer will be identical between assignments. You agree with me? There's no response. Can you hear me?
Yes, Professor.
So basically, when looking at the assignments, I have found that there has been, to use this chapter, collusion. There has been collusion between students, and some people have given identical same answers. So just remember that your collusion has been noticed. Although I have not penalized anybody, but the collusion is there. I don't know who wrote the original answer and who copied, but the collusion definitely is there. Right? So any more questions before we conclude?
So for problems, we can refer the textbooks solved examples, Professor.
Yes, of course. See, the idea is to understand. So if you understand the theory and you understand how the problem is solved, so when you encounter, because the problem that I will give it set in the exam paper will not be from the solved problems. It will be from, somewhere else, some other textbook or the end of this chapter or something which are not solved. So I will not be basically giving you an example from the solved problems. So you must be confident enough to solve problem in the class. And secondly, you must read the question very carefully. Let us say in the assignment 1, for example, I find that in the, I think the section C, in the case study, I had specifically mentioned that the marginal cost is to be measured at the midpoint areas 2.5, 3.5, and so on. But very few have taken that into account, that the production should be 5.5 and all those things. The graph is plotted according to 5.5. 70 or 80% of the people have plotted as per 5, 6 and all, not the midpoint. So these are areas that you have to be careful about. You will lose marks. Secondly, the first question about grandparents and parents, standard of living. This is an economics paper. I'm looking an answer in terms of economics, not in terms of, because today we have internet, we do online shopping, we have big cars. It has to be answered in terms of economics. What was the per capita GDP, per capita GNP at that time, what it is today, whether liberalization had happened, whether foreign cars were available in India, all those kind of things. So talking about technology using TikTok and this and that, it makes no sense. So you have to answer all questions in light of the subject economics. Okay.
Got it, Professor.
All right. So if there are no more questions, we can disperse.
Have a good weekend, Professor.
Thank you and best of luck for the exams.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
a lot, Professor. Have a good
Professor,
day.
one last question.
Yes.
The textbook, the George Mankiw, I don't remember the last name. I am not able to find game theory topic.
Not able to find game theory.
Yeah.
It will be in the chapter of oligopoly, because see this this PPT we covered today, which is showing as chapter 17 or whichever chapter it is showing. So you just find this is also by basically these slides are from Mankiw. I have not made these slides. Okay, so you will find this in the oligopoly chapter. You will find game theory.
Okay, Professor.
And the other thing is that I have corrected, I think, almost all assignment 1, but I would say that one of you has made a mistake. If I remember the name, it is a lady by some name Tripathi who has submitted who has uploaded the corporate finance assignment as assignment 1. So please inform that lady to upload the correct file. And as I'm starting, I'll start correcting the assignment 2 today. I think very few of you have uploaded assignment 2. I think if I remember, 10 had uploaded assignment 2. So I urge you to upload your assignment 2 ASAP. Okay.
So assignment 2, it's with Corona economy or post Corona, Professor. I think you already mentioned in one of the classes, but
Yeah. So what I really wanted was that, see, we are not talking about general scenario. We are talking about the scenario today. So today, what is the scenario in the market? What is the problem? One, of course, is lack of people have lost jobs. And we can see all around us, restaurants are closed. Many restaurants are permanently closed. So what is going on? Why is there is a cut down in demand because people are losing jobs, so they don't have income, so the demand has come down. Similarly, businesses also are so in this current scenario, there is no supply, there is no demand, so there is shortfall on both sides. So in this scenario, what should the government do? So you can say something like that: to increase the demand in the hands of the, see that the lack of demand from the buyer side has affected the, let us say, the poorer people. So let us say the farming, so maybe some farming reforms, fixing minimum price so that there is higher income in farms, or doing doing direct money transfers for the smaller businesses, giving them loan relief and all that. So these are the questions that I'm looking at, that given the current problems, how government can stimulate demand, how it can stimulate supply, and in general, what to do with the income, the interest rates, all these things. For these things, you will have to do a bit of reading on Google or on papers and come up. So you identify, maybe you identify X number of problems, but you work on one problem. How will the suggestions given to reduce unemployment problem? Then over the next 2-3 slides, you can explain how to mitigate this unemployment problem. So this is the kind of thing I'm looking for. So those who would like to revise their answers are free to upload a fresh answer. Okay. So I think that is done. Any more questions? Any more questions?
no, Professor.
All right then. Then I think we can leave.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.